Bags down, spikes on. Welcome to the track. Hi, my name's Colin Waitsman. Going to be your host for this episode of Track World News presented by the Harrier. And today we have a very special guest joining us. She is a two-time Olympian in both the 400-meter hurdles as well as the 4x4 personal best of 54.32. Pan Am champion. We have Sage Watson of Canada joining us. Sage, thanks for joining. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to chat with you.
For sure. Really looking forward to it. And so before we get started, I have a few celebrities that are from Alberta. I wanted you to let me know if they're legends or if they're not legends. And so I did my best. I'm pretty sure they're from Alberta. If they're not, let me know, but I tried. I'm doing my best. So first, Michael J. Fox.
Oh, I think a legend.
For sure.
Big
fan of what was it? I'm drawing a huge blank right now. Back to the Future. Love it.
Yes, for sure.
One of my favorites. Then the WWE star Bret Hart.
I don't watch WWE. I'm so sorry. I mean, I have anyone like respect for someone who gets to a high level in sports and competition, and I don't know. I don't know who that is. So I'm so sorry to that.
Yeah, he was
individual.
He was a star in the 80s too. So I figured, okay, I might have been pushing it a little bit there.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then not sure if you're a fan of the show, but it was Evangeli Lilly. She was a star on Lost. She played Kate Austin.
Okay.
I don't know if you watched Lost.
I did not. I missed that whole like Lost craze. I know like some people were like in it and like dedicated to watching it, and I just missed that whole era.
Same.
I mean, I think that's a pretty popular show, and so I'm sure she's like very well known. But again, like I haven't seen her work, so I can't say. I'm sorry.
No problem. And then last one I got for you, we have Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong, the what is it, the actor from a while ago.
I mean, I would say that's a legend. Everybody kind of knows that, and it's such a hit, and definitely.
There we go. Got a whole bunch of and there's a whole bunch more, a lot of hockey players as well, as I'm sure.
Yes, we have a lot of hockey players that come from Alberta, very strong hockey province. So I know there's so many.
For sure. And so before we get into track, I wanted to take a step back and look at some of your older tweets that you might have had. So I got a few questions. I want to bring them up, see if you can give us some answers on some of your tweets from a few years ago.
Oh boy, okay.
Nothing crazy. You're fine. Nothing crazy. First one, this was from December 1st, 2016, 6 a.m. practice, then an 8 a.m. business presentation, #student athlete life. Do you remember this presentation?
Yeah, potentially? I remember it because I finished weights and I didn't have time to change into my business suit like there at McHale Center where we train. So I had to bike. I'm like still sweating from weights. I had to bike to the business school and I had to change because they don't have locker rooms in the business school. So I had to change in the women's bathroom into heels and a skirt and a business jacket. So I definitely remember that one. That's just like the student athlete life. And I'm like, I felt so gross. I'm wearing my suit and I'm like, I haven't showered since weights. Like I didn't have time, but that's the student athlete life from practice to class. And there's not a lot of time in between.
Yeah, just from one thing to another. I mean, did you ace it? Well, how'd it go?
Yes, yeah, that one we aced. It was it was like a marketing presentation. It was actually to market. It's funny because it was before Lululemon did this, but it was actually to market shoes to Lululemon to get them to sell on the shelves.
Oh, cool.
So my business professor thought we were like amazing for thinking this up, and I'm just like, oh, it's an obvious thing being a runner,
Yeah, for sure. Next one for you. So this was from November 17th of 2016. You said, I just started learning Spanish last week. So hablo muy poco español. Do you still remember much Spanish from when you were learning it back then?
No, because I really failed with how I took Spanish. I took Spanish online, and I do not recommend anyone take Spanish online unless you have to, because there's no like in-person conversation. And I didn't learn a lot from my 2 semesters of Spanish. It was just one of those things. It was a requirement to graduate to have a second language. And my French was so bad, being Canadian, I didn't remember anything from French class in Canada. So I decided, hey, I'm in Arizona, why not take Spanish? So no, I don't remember a lot of Spanish.
It's all good. I don't either. And I took, geez, I think like 6 years of it. So it's all good. I don't remember.
I know it's one of those things you have to keep practicing and continue to use it.
100%, 100%. And so last one here for you, and kind of to transition into our further convo. You said this was on, what is this, August 29th, 2016. Oh wait, no, never mind. Yeah, August 29th, 2016. If you never step outside of your comfort zone, you will never know of what you're fully capable of. And so that's a quote that I think can be used for really anything, whether it's athletes or outside of it. Could you kind of touch on,
Yes.
what that means to you and how it is so important to make sure you're stepping outside of your comfort zone?
Yeah, I think it means taking a chance, doing something you've never done, being uncertain, being unsure of the outcome. I think that we kind of get scared of taking chances in life because it is scary, because there is a high probability you will fail when you're trying something new or you're doing something you've never done. And I think failure's a scary thing for a lot of people, but we have to realize, failure is just the reality of life. If you're not really failing, have you truly tried? And so I think that especially as athletes, we need to, be willing to step outside of our comfort zones when it comes to training, step outside of our comfort zones, it comes to like the mental aspect, because if you don't push that and go to that next level, you won't see increased performances, and you might not be able to accomplish that next big scary goal or scary dream you have.
Exactly. Yeah, I've always thought of it kind of, if you do the same thing you've always done, you're going to get the same results you've always got. And so if you don't push the envelope, you're going to stay doing, running the same times, lifting the same weights, whatever it might be.
Exactly. Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So very important, even though it might be scary or hurt in the meanwhile, push out. It should hopefully help you in the future for sure.
Yeah. I think it's just a hard thing for us to do because we get caught up in our comfort zones. I think it's so easy to get caught up in your day-to-day routine and just not pushing yourself a little bit more. And I mean, it's scary when you're doing it for running and performances, because if you do push yourself, there's a chance, oh, I could injure myself, or, oh, I might tire myself too much and it might be all the wrong training. How do I know this is right? And I think you can never know for sure unless you go out there and try it.
Exactly. Gotta try it. Gotta put yourself out there. And so then wanted to flash back to where track kind of started for you. What got you interested in running, when you got started, in our sport here?
So I got interested in running. My mom was actually in the Medicine Hat police force, and she used to run to stay fit. And she would always be going on runs, and I was just little, and I'd always ask to go on runs with her, but I was too little to go on the runs. And so that kind of intrigued my interest in running. And, eventually elementary school, junior high, I started doing track and field competitions, and I really enjoyed racing. Like, I loved the thrill of it. I loved to run from a very young age because of my mom. And I had a natural talent for it as well. And my parents really encouraged me, and they started driving me to more competitions, and they started to, this is another thing pushing me outside my comfort zone. The first kind of team I made in the track and field world, I did not want to go to the competition for the tryouts for the team. And my mom actually had to pretty much force me to run the 400 at this meet. And I'm so happy I did, because I actually won the 400. Nobody knew who I was. I was just this random girl from Medicine Hat, Southern Alberta, and I won, and I was on Team Alberta. And then we went to a big Western, so Alberta against some of the other Western provinces, and I actually won there as well. So I went from being this little scared little girl to like winning these big competitions for my age group. And that kind of like lit a little fire in me. I was like, wow, this is fun. I'm meeting new people. I get to travel to these great meets, and it's fun to win. I mean, everybody knows it's fun to win. So it kind of lit this fire in me. I just love the aspect of being on a team, being on Team Alberta, having all these friends from all over the province and meeting other athletes from other provinces. And it was just exciting and fun. And that kind of got me started in track and field and going into high school, and then, getting a scholarship and going to university.
Yeah, I mean, being able to be winning these races and being top names and making teams to represent where you're coming from. I mean, that's super cool. And so for those that might not know that are listening, because I know a lot of people are from the States, so it's like Alberta, would that be something similar to like a state, like making an all-state team?
Yeah, so that would be the same as making your state team. So I always say, when some people get confused, I'm like, yeah, I won states. They're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But we just have provinces instead of states. So I made like the all-state team, you could say, and then I won states or provincials multiple times, and that's kind of what got me into this line of making Team Canada, because I think we forget that it starts at the small level. It starts at like making that first team, or it starts at making your first school team, or whatever that is, and then you eventually get to make the big teams. It doesn't just happen. Very rare cases it happens where you just make the big team. It starts out small.
Yeah. And so that's interesting, because you mentioned that you originally didn't even want to try out to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to think of like, if there was different timelines, let's say your mom was like, okay, you can stay home, you don't have to do it. How do you think the rest of your running career might have changed if, you originally didn't go out for that very first team? Could have things been much different, do you think?
I think for sure could have been different. I definitely would have still raced in high school, and I think that I would have still done well there and maybe gotten to the same place I am now. But I think that, who knows, really? You can't rewrite the stories. But I think that having the support of my mom and dad, I know for sure, their support is what has gotten me to where I am today. So thanks, Mom, for almost forcing me to go into that 400 race. And I think just having people who believe in you and who want to see you succeed is, kind of what got me to where I am today and what started me out in track and field.
Yeah, I was something similar. I was a pole vaulter when I was competing, and there were many times
Awesome.
many times of my parents driving me like 2 hours to go to the club, and then driving back, and it's like, every morning or late at night, and it's like there's a lot of days where it's like I don't want to do this, but it's like, nah, come on, you got a goal you want to achieve. Let's make sure we go out and do it, because if you skip out on today, that might snowball and you're skipping out next week and then the week before, and now you're not reaching your goals anymore.
Yeah, for sure. I think parents, I always encourage, parents, put your kids in anything and everything, all the sports, and then see what they really like and really try to support them in that area, because you make such a difference in a kid's life when you show support for their dreams or their goals or what they enjoy doing.
100%. And so I'm interested, because I know from an athlete in the States going to, and then having college coaches. I know the recruiting process from the state level here in the US. Is it much different for you being a Canadian, growing up in Canada, and then eventually coming to the NCAA program, or is it much the same?
I think it's a little bit different, just for the fact that, if you're from Canada, you're always going to be out of state. You can still get it on a walk-on position, but I would think it's a little bit harder to be from out of the country and do a walk-on position as it would be to get a scholarship from out of the country as an international student. So I got recognized by universities and D1 schools because I was actually on the World Youth Team for Team Canada. In 2011, we competed in France, and a lot of coaches recognized me there, and I started getting messages from there. But I actually also reached out to quite a few schools and sent them, my times and my SAT scores and all of that. So I would say, like, if anyone looking to go to a school, I would always recommend reaching out, even if you think you don't even have a shot. Like, you never know what can happen, and just putting your name out there. So whether they're in Canada, feel free to reach out to schools, or whether you're here in the United States and you're not quite sure, reach out, because you never know if they might have some scholarship money, or you might get a walk-on position, or, a full ride scholarship. You just don't know. So I highly encourage all, high school athletes, if you have a dream and you have a dream school, reach out to it.
Yeah. Wherever you want to go, if you never ask, the answer is always no. I've always kind of think of it that way.
Yes.
Unless you say something, the answer is no. And so then for you, how did you end up going originally to FSU? Because I don't even know how many miles difference that is. Probably thousands, from nearly Western Canada to the most southeast part. Well, I guess it's the west of Florida, but southernmost state.
Yeah.
How did you end up getting all the way there to FSU originally?
Yeah, I took a few official visits to different universities, and my visit to Florida State, I absolutely loved. I loved Florida State. I loved Tallahassee. The university was gorgeous. What really attracted me to Florida State was the team was full of international athletes, and I thought that was something really cool. There's just like a diverse group of us from Canada to the islands to Europe. So it was a really cool team atmosphere. I really liked the facilities. I just had this good feeling. And I always tell athletes, like, how do I know what school is right? I'm like, if you get a good feeling there and you feel like this is somewhere not only you could grow as an athlete, but you could grow as a person, and you can get a good education, go there, because that good feeling is telling you, like, hey, this is a good fit for me. This is a good place.
Yeah, that's what it kind of was for me when I stepped on my school's campus. I was like, oh, this feels right. Like, I don't know what it is. I'm not sure exactly how to put my thumb on it, but it's like, it just feels like this is the right place for me.
Yeah, I think because we can get so caught up in like aesthetics and the small things the school has to offer, and those things truly don't matter. I mean, you probably know, you went to school, like the fancy things, like they don't matter. It's like how you feel there and the people who are around you, and I mean the positive good feelings you get from that school.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, it sounds like, yeah, you really were drawn to Florida State, had a really great time there, and then did end up going over to Arizona. How was that? Could you tell us what was going on in your head, like, of why you were thinking, hey, let's take a different change of scenery, and taking your talents over to Arizona to finish up your collegiate career?
Yeah, my coach actually got let go at FSU, and I was at this point where there was a lot of uncertainty within the coaching staff at Florida State, who was going to coach the 400 hurdles, and what that was going to look like. We had quite a few women doing the 400 hurdles, and they had all kind of graduated, so I was going to be one of the only women there, doing the 400 hurdles. So I kind of had this feeling that it was time for me to leave and time for me to start looking somewhere else. And that's when I got in touch with Coach Harvey at Arizona, and he just blew me away. His knowledge of the 400 hurdles, what he had to offer at University of Arizona, the business school at University of Arizona. And it was not an easy decision to transfer, because like I said, I love Florida State. I loved honestly everything about it, but I just had this feeling because 2016 was coming up. I transferred in 2015, the Olympics were coming up, and I knew, I had this like one shot if I really wanted to get to the Olympics. And with all the uncertainty at Florida State, I wasn't sure I could get to the Olympics still being there, but I had a feeling that if I could get into an area and get with a coach and a training partner, which was Georgianne Moline. She was a professional athlete training at the University of Arizona. I could get into a place where I had somebody pushing me and a coach who was very knowledgeable with the hurdles, that I could get to that next level and I could possibly make the Olympics in 2016. And I'm so happy I made the choice in 2015, as hard as it was, and honestly, as difficult as it was to move my whole life across the country to Arizona. It paid off because I was able to make the Olympics in 2016.
Yeah, I mean, to say you're an Olympic athlete and you're still in college at the time, right? Yeah. So
Yes, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I had one more year after.
yeah. So to be, oh, I made the Olympics and I just was finishing up finals a couple weeks ago or or whatever it might be.
I had a final the night before my Olympic trials race, and I like begged my professor like to not make me do it the night before, and like if I could do it after, and he was like, no. And I was like, no, but I'm trying to make the Olympics tomorrow, like please. And he's like, no. So I had a final the night before my Olympic trials.
Oh man. Well, at least you know you're like, all right, I'm not stressing about the race as much. I'm stressing about this final and then the race. It's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot.
It was like get final done, then race.
There we go. There we go. And so one thing on TikTok that you have, you're a big TikTok star. Well, I'm sure we'll get into it later, but one of your videos that I saw and drawn to me was one where you're saying this was a race that changed your life. Could you
Mhm.
touch on the race that you were talking about and how that helped change your life? I think it was one of your last collegiate ones.
Yeah, it was my last collegiate race, NCAA championships 2017 in Oregon. And, at this point I had already kind of started talking with my coach about what I needed to do to become a pro after. And he said, you got to run like at least 50, you got to run 54 seconds. And you got to win the championship, and then you'll be recognized and you'll sign and you'll get a good contract. And so I was like, wow, that's a lot of pressure. Not only is this my last race as a collegiate athlete, this is like my one kind of shot to sign with an agent and to get a contract. And so I just remember going into that race, and even though I had all this pressure, I just remember having this feeling like I knew I was going to win. And I know that sounds, I'm not trying to sound cocky or anything, but I had worked so hard for it, and I had visualized the race so many times in my head, and I had been like ready for this moment. Like I felt when I stepped on the track, I was like, I'm ready for this moment, and like I'm going to do it. And I was running the race, and the announcers, when they were racing it, they're actually saying I was having a bad race, but I was actually running the best race of my life, because one of the USC girls had like come right up on me because she had taken out the race like extremely hard. I mean, it's a championship race, like you got to go for it. And I just remember her coming up alongside me, and in my head, I was like, no, I'm winning this. And I remember the last 100 meters, like I felt no pain. I don't remember even feeling lactic. I just remember being like, you're going to win this. You're going to win this. And like when I crossed the line, it was like, oh my goodness, like I did win it. And then I had this like exciting moment. And it was such a special moment because my family was there. And it was also a special moment because my first year in the NCAA, I had made the NCAAs, and I had missed the final. I went and did the semifinal, but I had missed the final race. And I remember being in the stands and like watching that race, and as a freshman, and saying, wow, like I don't think I'm ever going to be as good as these girls. Like I don't think I'm ever going to be able to win this. This is like an impossible feat to win NCAAs. It's really hard. And I just remember being so young and looking at that and be like, oh, I just like, I'm going to try, but I just don't know if I'll be able to do that one day. And then when I actually got to do it my senior year and like have my moment and to be an NCAA champion, like that's something no one can take away from you. Is somebody can break your record, but they can't take away your championship. So it was just a really exciting moment. And, after that, I signed with an agent. I signed with a sponsor, and my pro career started.
Yeah, I mean, talk about pressure, like to have your race be your coach saying, look, you're gonna have to win this race to have and be running in the 44s, or if not 44s, that'd be insane. Running in the 54s to be
Mhm.
able to get that pro level contract. I mean, were the warm-ups, because I know for me, like there's different periods of that pre-race that have different like types of stress almost, where it's like once you're
Mhm.
at a certain time, it's very stressful. Certain times it's not. Like, could you tell us what it was like leading up to it, going like knowing this is a pretty important race I'm about to go into?
Yeah, I remember just trying to be very calm and positive. And I find when I'm, having fun and able to relax, that I sometimes have my best races. So, before the race, I told my coach I wanted to go to Starbucks to get an iced coffee because that's kind of my thing. I drink an iced coffee before all my races. So went to Starbucks, I drank my iced coffee on the way to the track. I just remember joking with some of the coaches and trainers there, like, talking, being excited about the race, and then having a very kind of calm and relaxed warm up with my coach. It was just me and my coach, and we found a little quiet area, and I was able to do my hurdle drills and kind of get prepped and ready, and have him there beside me, saying encouraging words, and just saying like, you're ready. All you have to do is what you've been doing, and you're going to be ready for this. And just having that belief with someone, knowing my family was there in the stands, cheering me on. They had all came down from Canada, was another big factor. So just a very calm, relaxed warm up. I mean, calm as in I'm still pushing myself, getting all the fast twitch stuff firing, but I was just calm in my mind and my heart. And I walked onto the track, having a lot of self-belief and knowing it was my day, and then it was.
Yeah, it's like if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. So if
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
yeah, if you're going into the race like, oh man, like person next to me is looking really good in warm-ups, all their PR is
Hmm.
better than mine, I don't have a chance. Well then yeah, you're setting yourself up for failure. But if you have that mindset that
Exactly.
you're gonna win, then you might as well be able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've noticed the races where I'm like looking around and distracted and thinking about other things. No, I'm not in that zone. I'm not focused. And I mean, I've still competed well. Not saying that that's a total write off if you don't feel like you're in the zone. I still ran very fast and done well when I wasn't completely in the zone. But I find the races where I've had my greatest success, I didn't really care who was in the race. I didn't care what was going on. I just knew I wanted to win and I wanted to run the best I possibly could. And there's 8 lanes. I just had my one own lane. I have my own 10 hurdles. So that's all I could focus on.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And so wanted to, I guess, take it back just a tad with the Olympics in 2016. So, like you mentioned, you're able to compete in 2016, and you were able to go to Rio for not just the 400-meter hurdles, but I believe also the 4x4 for Team Canada. What was it
Mhm.
like being able to represent your country? Because you went from going to repping Alberta, and then now you're repping Canada on the world stage. What was that like,
Mhm.
being able to have that Team Canada singlet?
Oh, it was so exciting to make my first Olympic team. I, was thrilled. It was like a goal of mine, since I think grade 3, I had said I wanted to be an Olympian one day. So it was just so amazing, so exciting. I just remember like not being able to sleep. I was so excited for the race, and uh, it was a phenomenal experience. And I just felt so lucky that I got to be able to represent Canada, you know, even when I was still in college. It was really exciting. And I think that definitely helped set me up for my last year of university and going into the professional world of track and field.
Yeah, I guess once you're in college, or when you're in college, you're at the Olympics, and then it must not be as stressful because it's like, oh man, well, I was just on the world's biggest stage, and now I'm going down to
Mhm.
like this smaller like 3, 4, 5 team meet. It must have been like, oh well, this isn't as bad as before I was doing
Yeah,
it.
it definitely made like the stress kind of was taken away from collegiate track once I was at the Olympics. I come back and I'm like, I mean, you still have the nerves of a race. I don't think those have ever really left me. You're always kind of like, oh, what can I do today? What am I going to do? But just, you go from the Olympics to, yeah, like you said, a little dual meet. The pressure is way less.
Exactly. And so I know we saw, I think on some of the social media in 2016, you guys had a rookies dance or something for Team Canada for people who was their first team. Did you guys have that for 2020? I know it was different now, it being your second team. Did the rookies have to do some type of dance or whatever it might have been
Yes.
this year?
Yeah, so at our camp, we had a camp in Gifu in Japan, and we were lucky enough to, stay in a hotel. It was all very isolated. We couldn't leave the hotel or the track, so very isolated. But we all were in the dining hall one night, and the rookies had to make pretty much like sing and dance to a popular Canadian artist. So it was quite funny. We had a really great time, and I think it just lightens the mood of the whole team, and it gives, you know, the rookies something fun. I mean, it's fun for like the people. I mean, I did my first senior Team Canada thing in 2015, so it had been a long time, and so it was just fun to watch all the rookies do this first little fun skit. And I think it's just a fun team bonding activity too. We all get to laugh, we all have a great time, and it just lightens the tension a little bit before the Olympics.
For sure. Yeah, you can't be all serious all the time. You gotta lighten it up a little bit in between.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly.
And so then how was this this year's games compared to 2016? Obviously very different with no fans being able to attend, and also it being your second time at the Olympics. Could you kind of compare what it was like as an athlete for your first time versus, you know, that being your second games in 2020?
I think the stresses were still the same. They might have even been a little bit more for Japan, just because all of the protocols and how strict it was to fly there. You know, some people were, when we got there, we were in the airport for like 6 to 8 hours, just going through tests and security and all of this stuff. So it was a bigger process. I felt like this game was a little bit more draining in the fact there were so many things that we had to do each day, or precautions we had to take in the village, especially traveling, you know, all the rules. So just a very different Olympic Games. I mean, you can't, it was COVID, so you can't really compare the two in a sense, other than the fact that this one was like a lockdown Olympic Games. And I think the people of Japan and all the volunteers did such a phenomenal job still trying to make it fun for us and make it a great experience. You know, I praise the volunteers who work the Olympics Games, because they're always like smiling, cheering and waving, because they knew that we had no fans. They knew that there was no one there. So the most clapping and cheering we heard was actually in the call rooms, because they would all cheer and clap as we were on our way out to compete. And I just think that Japan did a phenomenal job of that. But the games were extremely different. I mean, the dining hall, one of my favorite things about the first Olympic Games was getting to meet athletes from all over the world, and people didn't want to meet each other. You know, like you're there to focus and you're there to compete, and the dining room tables were set up so differently. So like you couldn't really talk to people across from you or to the side of you, and you would most likely only dine with your teammates because you wanted to limit your interaction with other athletes, because nobody knew like what was going on with their protocols, and they really encouraged us not interacting. So it was very different from that way. So I didn't get to meet, I saw some friends from other countries through who I knew through the professional world of track and field, but you know, I didn't get to meet or watch any athletes from other sports. So that was kind of a sad aspect of the game. And then within 48 hours, you had to leave the village once you were done competing. So people would compete the first day and then they were gone, you know? So there was still like 2 weeks left of the Olympics, but they're gone. And so it was just very different. The village was almost empty like the last night, other than the people who were attending the closing ceremonies and the people who competed the last few days. It felt like quiet and empty. And the Olympic Village, you know, in Rio was just like full of energy and life and tons of people. And it's just a different, but I'm so grateful that they were able to still have the games. The volunteers were amazing, but just two completely different Olympic experiences for sure.
Yeah, that has to feel weird, like if you're competing on like the last day, it's like where's everybody at? There's all these people here before. For sure.
Yes, yeah, it's very different.
Yeah. And so obviously in 400-meter hurdles, this was, I would say, the year of the 400-meter hurdles for the men and for the women. It was, you saw both the world records going down, and so you as an athlete, you know, seeing like, oh, this is very, very competitive on both sides of things. It's, you know, what's it like for you seeing like there's a lot of really great, talented young ladies that are putting up some great times? How does that fuel you as a competitor, seeing that there's so many people fighting for those top spots?
I think it's amazing. The 400 hurdles has become one of the most anticipated events on the track. And I feel so honored to be, an individual in that event because the field of women and men competing in it is just phenomenal. And it elevates us all. I think when you see your competitors, running faster, like you want to run faster, you want to do better. And I'm really excited to see, where the 400 hurdles like continues to go, because right now it's at such an amazing time in history for the women's 400 hurdles and the men's 400 hurdles. So I'm just excited to be a part of it. It makes me want to run faster. It makes me want to elevate, my training, my performances.
Yeah. And so which do you like better, I guess you could say? Or I don't know if better is the right word, but do you enjoy doing the 4x4 or being on the individual 400-meter hurdles?
They're so different. I mean, the women's 4x4, you're part of a team. And so I don't see myself as an individual running. I see us like as a team there on the track, and I'm just there to do my part. Versus when I'm doing the 400 hurdles, like it's all me, it's all on me in my lane, what I'm about to do. So I would say the pressure is a little bit more intense for an individual event versus a team event, because you're no longer seeing it as yourself being the one out there on the track. You're saying, hey, like this is a group. We all got each other's backs. We're all going to run hard for each other. I know I'm going to run my fastest. I know you're going to run your fastest. So it's kind of a cool thing to walk out with a team. It's definitely a little bit more exciting for something like at the Olympic Games, because you're representing your country, like the four of you are representing your country versus you as an individual. So I mean, they're very different things. I love them both. Obviously the 400 hurdles, I get to show like how hard I've worked and what I've been able to do, but the women's 4x4 is definitely really exciting just to be there as a team representing Canada.
Yeah, that's similar thing for me. It's like I enjoyed my individual events to be able to compete individually and show like this is what I can do. But it was also fun to be like, oh, it's fun to be a part of a team and be able to win with your team or whatever it might be. So yeah, like them for different reasons, but still very fun for sure.
Exactly.
And so these next few years, we have a lot of major championships coming about, mainly from the shutting down of the 2020 season. Just made it so, geez, it seems like every other week almost is a major championship. So,
yes, for sure.
So for you as an athlete, what is that like, knowing that you're an athlete just about right in your prime? Where is it going to be with all of these major competitions coming up within the next few years?
I think it's really exciting because I honestly, I had never experienced the down year, as they said. In 2018 was like the down year, even though we had Commonwealth Games as Canadians. But I think it's super exciting to know that there's so many opportunities ahead and so many chances to make more teams. I just see it as, a great way to possibly do all these big championships and then end my career. So I think that it's exciting for me. It's exciting for a lot of athletes who are looking to make the next games, to have these next two world championships before that, because that just gives you extra time to prepare for the Olympic Games, and it gives you more competitions to prepare. And I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it seems like it should be super exciting these next few years of everything that's going on. And so before we close up shop, I had a few other questions for you. And so we had mentioned before, TikTok star, you got hundreds of thousands of followers or views, all of that. How did you get interested into TikTok, and how could you just talk about your growing stardom, I guess you could say, with
I wouldn't call myself a TikTok star, but it was funny because my brother back in 2019, he was like, Sage, you have to get on TikTok. My brother's 11 years younger than me, so he's still in high school. So he is very much into TikTok and all those things going on. And he was like, Sage, you have to get on TikTok. It's awesome. And I was like, I don't know. Like that's for like high school kids. Like I'm a adult here. Like I can't be on TikTok. He's like, no, you should do it. And so I downloaded it. I started watching. I was like, oh, this is kind of like a fun, interactive, cool app. Like I really enjoy watching these little skits, whether it's like people, doing informational videos, you're learning something, or you're just watching a funny video, whatever it is, they're quick little fun videos. And so I decided to give it a shot. And obviously I don't think anybody like does really good their like first few videos, but I had fun making them. Like I honestly was just doing it for fun. And my brother and I had made a few videos like over COVID together, and we had a blast doing it. And so then eventually people like got really interested into following, my Olympic journey on TikTok. And so that's when it kind of I guess I dedicated a little bit more time. It wasn't just for fun anymore. It was like another Instagram platform to, share athletics, share the sport, share what I'm doing. So I've had a lot of fun on it. It's a cool app. It can definitely take up a lot of your time if you're not careful, just scrolling through TikToks. But I think it's a great place, to post about the sport and to show people more about track and field and what it is that we do as pro track and field athletes.
I'm right there with you. I can just start scrolling for hours and I'm like, oh
Yes.
man, I gotta get away from my phone.
It's so dangerous because the algorithm is, I think what makes TikTok so great is the algorithm like gets you down to a pin. It like starts showing you everything. You're like, hey, how did it know I wanted to see this? Or like, it just knows that I wanted to like laugh all night, or it just knows that I wanted to learn all these. I mean, I've learned so many little life hacks from TikTok. It's been crazy.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's just, it knows what's going on, and it's like, it knows me better than I know me, which is crazy. And then
Yeah.
last question for you. So when I was scrolling through, I was looking through, whenever I, type in your name, Sage, with all of the time that you have, or all of the races that you have, it seems like you're always wearing the same color of red lipstick.
Mhm.
And so my favorite color is red. So I was like, I'm all for it. But was there any reasoning or story behind, why you have the same shade of red lipstick on for most of your competitions there?
Yeah, the red lipstick actually started kind of, back when I was competing in college. I had wanted something, I guess you can say, like as a confidence booster. And I know that sounds silly, like what made you feel as a confidence booster? Well, I feel like when, you get dressed up to go somewhere, or you get ready for business school, I'd get ready for important presentations or important things. And I would put on my makeup and I'd put on red lipstick and I'd feel good. And so I had this saying, like, if you feel good or you look good, you feel good, like you're gonna perform like great. And so I started wearing the red lipstick just for myself as a confidence booster. I had a few teammates kind of make fun of me for it. It wasn't taken, they're like, why would you wear makeup while you run? And it is kind of silly to wear makeup while you run. You're sweating. Like it's not a time to be wearing makeup, but I liked it. I liked the bold red lips, and I wore it to make for NCAA's. And then I wore it to the Olympic trials, and then I wore it to the Olympics in 2016. And in 2016, when I wore it to the Olympic Games, it also kind of became part of my Team Canada red uniform, to support, the red maple leaf. And people loved it. Like it like actually like kind of went like viral. Like people just love the red lipstick. I got thousands of messages like from people who just love the red lipstick, wanted to know more about it. And so it kind of became part of my uniform at that point. I wanted to continue wearing the red lipstick and showing that, what it stands behind is, having confidence, believing in yourself, and doing what makes you feel good. I think we all have our little things we like to do, say, watch, wear, that makes us feel a little bit more confident, or that makes us feel a little bit more, ready to step out there in front of the world. And for me, that's my red lipstick.
Awesome. Love it. Yeah, I was like big fan of the color red. So whenever I saw, I was like, love it. Keep it going. Keep it going. But Sage, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Where could people go if they wanted to learn more about you on social media or anything like that?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really liked your questions. That was fun. But if you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram, Sage Watson, and then I'm also on TikTok, Sage Watson 7. I am on Twitter, as you said before. You saw some of my old tweets. I'm on there. I'm not as active on Twitter, but yeah, definitely Instagram, TikTok, Twitter.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Sage. Really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone for listening. This has been another episode of Track World News. If you want more content, go and follow us on Instagram at Track World News. You post different clips, highlights, news, things like that up there. And also make sure that you leave a like or subscribe to the show wherever you're listening. I really do appreciate it. That's going to be it for us here. Have a good one and peace.